I finally played Hotline Miami and oh shit. Oh. Ugh. Whoops. Sorry guys, I was just finishing up some work. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's YouTube's favorite gaming unk. Back at it again with a schizophrenic, mega meta, neon color infused episode of the series in which we venture well beyond the rose tinted haze to deliver a modern and fresh take on the games that you love. No sugarcoating, no fluff, no nostalgia. 2012, a year that felt like the end of the world, or at least that's what the Mayans would have had us believe. As it turns out, we would indeed survive the apocalypse, instead subjected to some rather momentous events. One of these events was the re-election of Barack Obama, who danced his way back into the Oval Office for a second term. While the presidential debates certainly wouldn't have impressed Phoenix Wright, the real drama unfolded on social media, where Big Bird became an unexpected political icon after Mitt Romney suggested cutting PBS's funding. On the cultural tip, 2012 was the year America could not escape the infectious earworm of Gangnam Style. Psy's hit single had everyone from trust fund Nepo babies to the most hood amongst us galloping like we were the star of our own ghostly rodeo. Can you believe Buddy still packs stadiums with that shit? Yeah, me too, actually. And now over in sports, the Giants claimed a massive Super Bowl victory, leaving Patriots fans deflated yet again. Oh boy, these are getting rough.
Who wrote this shit?
Now, in the world of gaming, we were still about a year away from the PS4 and Xbox One era, with Gen 7 preparing for those last rites. Games like Journey took us up to the highest peaks, while ones like Max Payne 3 dirtied you up, threw you a couple of slugs, and tossed your ass right into that gutter. And now even further,
deeper
down into the depraved sewage pit of 2012's hyperviolence is the game of the hour, Hotline Miami. Now, how did I miss this one if I'm such an indie guy? Well, I hadn't gotten into the indie scene quite yet back in 2012. My personal breakthrough came from Shovel Knight about a year and a half later, and I wasn't playing games quite as often as I used to by then. My focus had flipped into more of a music making type of role, performing at shows and martial arts training. I was just really out of the scene. Outside of the odd catch up with the homies to play some Third Strike, I didn't really play a whole lot back then. So I didn't really have Hotline Miami on speed dial, nor do I remember it all that well from that era. I vaguely recall seeing the character art donned in animal masks and being primarily perplexed, but you know, that's about it. Now here I am over 10 years later to finally answer the question, is Hotline Miami still worth your $15 or so and 5 to 8 hours of time right now? Well, let's go ahead and kick in that dough. Hotline Miami is a highly stylized top-down shooter developed by Dennaton Games, a two-dude crew of Swedish developers, Jonathan Soderstrom and Dennis Whedon. The game was published by Devolver Digital, no stranger to this channel, and really pushed the publisher to early success. Released on October 23rd, 2012, the game quickly gained a reputation for its intense action, challenging gameplay, and distinctive retro aesthetic. Now, in an AMA from 2014, Dennis told a Redditor that Drive and Cocaine Cowboys were two of the biggest influences in the game's development. He also said that they didn't really use a whole lot of actual games as inspiration. Oh, and his favorite movie of all time? Fight Club. That trio of films all have a hyper-violent yet thoughtful approach, which checks out very well with Hotline Miami. On that launch date, it dropped on Windows, but was later made available on multiple platforms, including PS3, PS4, PS Vita, Xbox One, and even Android. Now, upon release, the game received pretty positive reviews from critics and gamers alike, who lauded its addictive gameplay, unique art style, mind-bending storyline, and absolutely pulse-pounding soundtrack. IGN awarded the game an 8.8 out of 10, praising its fast-paced and challenging gameplay, but noting the steep difficulty curve as potentially frustrating for some players. No lies there. GameSpot gave it an 8 out of 10, highlighting its engaging gameplay and stylistic presentation, while mentioning the storyline's cryptic nature as both a strength and a point of confusion. Also checks out. Destructoid rated it a 9 out of 10, describing it as brutally satisfying, and applauded its combination of intense action and atmospheric storytelling. Metacritic shows an overall score of 85 out of 100 for the PC version, reflecting the generally favorable reviews that we just cited, with an 86 from users with over 2,200 scores. Hotline also left a hell of an impact, as it's often credited with helping to popularize the modern indie game movement of the early 2010s, alongside games like Super Meat Boy. It's another one that I gotta play. Now, these games demonstrated that small studios could, in fact, produce games with powerful, gripping narratives and targeted gameplay experiences. It also inspired many more indies and even some AAA games, including a personal favorite of mine, Katana Zero. One of the earliest games I played for the channel was one called My Friend Pedro, a video I've since hidden because it's, well,
Absolute shit.
but I really did enjoy my time with that game. The game's success eventually led to a sequel, Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number, released in 2015, further cementing its status as a cult classic in the gaming world. It was nominated for many awards, but actually only won one. Best PC Sound from IGN in 2012. Now, I didn't look up what the fuck PC sound actually entails, but when I read that, I, for some reason, can't stop imagining the dial tone from AOL, or, maybe that volume rocker ding. But yeah, to this day, the game has sold well over 2 million copies and continues to have a firm spot in the pantheon of indie darlings all these years later. I mean, shit. The comments from my indie tier list video that I just put out last month are about 50% of why I played this game next. So kudos to y'all. You can never say the Gamersician ain't for the people. Now let's go ahead and get to the heart of this, shall we? And if you're hyped for the resurrection of nostalgia, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe if you want more dope indie lookbacks, all right? So. The game begins with an unnamed man Hotline fans usually refer to as Jacket, waking up in his dingy apartment. He receives a phone call with vague instructions related to a, let's call it a task. Now, each message is lightly cloaked in metaphorical language that is often pretty silly and even punny, but they all lead to the same result: Jacket embarking on a rampage against his heavily armed foes. Now, between missions, Jacket sometimes has these hallucinations of 3 masked people. These characters allude to what is happening in our boy Jacket's head. The interactions deepen the sense of mystery and unease, leaving players to wonder about his true intentions, the intentions of those barking orders, as well as the nature of the world that he inhabits. Eventually, Jacket uncovers a conspiracy involving a group known as 50 Blessings, an organization that manipulates individuals into carrying out assassinations for reasons unknown. The game hints at themes of brainwashing, control, and the dehumanizing effects of violence. The lines between reality and insanity, they start to blur, like the bleary eyes of a Miami fuckboy on a Sunday morning, leaving players questioning practically everything. Jacket is eventually seen as a risk, so 50 Blessings decides to send Richter, also known as Rat Mask, to kill him and his girlfriend. This leaves Jacket in a coma until the mission Trauma, in which he escapes from the hospital to continue his path of destruction to put an end to all of this bullshit. He then finds out through evidence in the police station that the phone calls were traced to a Russian club. This is a ruse by 50 Blessings, as you find out in Safe House. A technician has set up a phony connection to the Russian club. He did this because he wanted to cover their trails. Now, Jacket unknowingly follows that lead until he kills the Russian mob boss, completing what 50 Blessings sought for him to accomplish. This ends Jacket's storyline in Hotline Miami. The game's conclusion is intentionally vague and ambiguous, with so many questions left unanswered, prompting each of us to reflect on the motivations and morality of Jacket's actions. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot to unpack, especially on just a single playthrough. But I love the open-endedness of it all. It lets you marinate on the happenings, it's like, what is legit? What are the insane musings of a madman? Is this a metaphor for gaming violence in general? Are we making all of this up in our heads? Now, when it scans back to the macro level after encountering Biker, who you eventually play in the epilogue, you start to realize that you're really just a cog in a network of killers. You see how everyone is pitted against each other for the ends of one or two establishments. It almost made me feel like it was a commentary on the fractured nature of our world. Pick your poison. I mean, political, economic, or social. You have this giant overarching megalith that pushes us all along with this vague promise of wealth, of a better future, of freedom from the literal rat race, and a seat at the table if we can only step over everyone else to get there, while sending our ops the exact same message. While these motherfuckers sit back and just watch the carnage unfold, we gotta do all the work. We're told to be our own story's heroes as we climb that ladder, but to someone else, we are just another body, just an NPC. These bastards in that ivory tower know we're gonna kill each other in the process, leaving a larger and larger pie piece for those who get to just reap the benefits while they never have to get their hands dirty. Or, maybe it's just killing a bunch of mafia boys and nothing else. I guess that's up to you. Do you like hurting people? Well, you damn sure better, because the gameplay of this game is completely about that. Dennis Whedon summed it up best. The combat is designed to be fast and intense. It's about getting into a flow where you can chain together actions seamlessly. This focus on flow and rhythm is a vital part of what makes the gameplay so goddamn engaging. Before entering a stage, you can choose which mask to don. You earn masks by completing levels as well as certain other conditions. They grant different abilities or perks, such as increased walk speed or the ability to survive an extra hit. This mechanic adds a layer of customization and replayability, encouraging players to try different play styles and strategies. I found that masks were super beneficial based on your current stage, and choosing the right one could mean the difference between success and failure. So an intimate knowledge of them truly comes in handy when you're struggling. And trust me, there will be plenty of struggle for you in this damn game. Because each level presents a tactical puzzle that demands quick reflexes, strategic thinking, and being fast on the trigger, as you and your foes can be killed with only a single hit. This one-hit mechanic will have you sweating through your controller, forcing you to plan your moves carefully and execute them with pristine precision. One of the standout aspects of the game for me is its emphasis on stealth and strategy. While Hotline Miami is often remembered for its brutal violence, it also rewards players who approach situations thoughtfully. You can go in guns blazing or take a more methodical approach, using melee weapons for silent takedowns and utilizing the environment to your advantage. Things like doors can be used to knock out enemies, and walls provide cover and opportunities to plan your next move. And you're literally rewarded for being fast and accurate with a scoring system that evaluates your performance based on factors like speed, combos, and creativity. This system really pushes you to experiment with different tactics and strive for higher scores. These rankings provide game-wide points that allow you to unlock additional weapons to be dropped into each and every level. And those weapons each have their own strengths and weaknesses, from baseball bats and knives to shotguns and assault rifles. The arsenal is diverse and encourages experimentation. Melee weapons are quiet but require you to get up close, while firearms are powerful but noisy, attracting even more enemies, which is often a mistake. Now you really get to tailor your approach based on situation and your playstyle, but do be warned because death will be swift and it will come often. Now I died over 1,000 times, which I know because I got the karma trophy, but each death does feel like a learning experience. As you master enemy patterns and level layouts from repeated attempts, you will improve. The quick respawn time helps minimize frustration, keeping you engaged and eager to jump, right back in there. Now, y'all know I'm fully young status by now, but back in 95, there was a game that my brother and I rented back in the day called Reloaded. And for some reason, I just could not shake the specter of that memory while I played this game. Let me check out some gameplay though. Oh, this game looks like it low-key sucks, so just forget I said anything. Now, I will say the controls took me a hot minute to really get down. Whenever I took more than a day between my play sessions, I would have to relearn all the different weapon options. I'd sometimes toss my gun when I'm meant to shoot, and the aiming can be super duper finicky, especially because switching between the reticle and lock-on seemed
super necessary
in more demanding levels. Now, I can definitely see this game being better potentially with a mouse and keyboard, but yeah, sorry guys, I'm a console dude through and through. I use my mouse and keyboard to type and browse the internet, all right? That's it. Now, while you do quickly get back into the brouhaha upon death and your progress is saved between floors, this game can get pretty frustrating. There's nothing worse than being down to one enemy, you think you get the drop on them, and for some reason you misfire, or the aim falls off sight, you get your ass capped. Now the mission, hot and heavy, was tough as fuck, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, thought about dropping this game. And the final boss might be one of the worst boss battles I've ever played in my life. Actually, all the boss fights are pretty mid, but I died about 20 times to that guy before I said to hell with this and watched a video on, how to cheese him. But you know what? For as aggravating as this game can get, I absolutely loved it. It's pulse pounding, high octane, just one more try nature is coupled brilliantly with a surprisingly expressive animations, bright and vibrant colors, and incredible synthwave. All that really leads to a desire to drudge along even when this game makes you want to stick your head between the toilet seat and the part you put your ass on and try to squeegee your brains out of your skull. But goddamn though, the art style, the graphics, and especially the music in this game go really super duper hard. The look of this game is like a really rough pixel art style, like big and chunky. The game takes place in an alternate version of 1980s Miami, and the vibes are immaculate, reflecting that era's colorful and chaotic nature. The neon colors and pixelated aesthetic lend the game a surreal, dreamlike quality,
even when it's being a nightmare.
The game's environments are detailed and varied, with each level offering a new, intricately designed setting. Whether it's a dingy apartment complex, a seedy nightclub, or a sprawling mansion, each location is filled with unique elements that keep the game feeling fresh. The top-down perspective lets you see everything around you relatively well, which is crucial for planning your next move and avoiding that sudden death waiting around the corner. You'll definitely need to use the look feature as you plan your next move though. This perspective, combined with the detailed pixel art, provides a certain clarity and a sense of space that enhances the strategic aspects of the gameplay. Now, one striking part of the graphics is how they complement the game's themes of violence. The pixelated steez really allows the game to depict graphical violence in a stylized and impactful way. After a fight, the exaggerated blood splatters and the chaotic mess of bodies and debris are super memorable, creating a visceral sense of unhinged destruction. Same on the audio front, as Hotline Miami features one of the most memorable soundtracks in all of gaming, and some solid sound effects to boot. The weapon effects all feel heavy and powerful, with snappy impacts that make it clear exactly what you're doing. Doors swing wide open, knives cut through the air, and as the viscera flies, you hear all of it. God damn, is it satisfying to curve stomp your 309th crony. Seriously, just, never gets old. One of the most effective parts of the game's audio work is the washed out, sober moment as you walk back to the car. Almost all the sound is ripped out of the room as a constant low hum and buzz track plays. Feels sort of like that moment after an extended bender in the club and all you're left with is the ringing in your ears and the regret. But let's keep it G. The game is renowned for its vibrant, retro-inspired visuals and electrifying synthwave soundtrack. The pulsating music adds to the adrenaline rush, making each level feel like a high-stakes, coke-addled action sequence. Tony Montana last stand shit only. Artists like Perturbator, I think it's like Perturbator. Anyway, Moon and Jasper Byrne, man, what are these artists' names? No wonder they're so eclectic. They all contribute to a soundtrack that sets the mood and truly drives the gameplay. The music is relentless, with beats that match that frantic pace of the action, making each level feel like an adrenaline-fueled dance of death. The soundtrack has been praised for immersing players in the game's atmosphere, with many fans listening to it beyond just the game. Now, the first track you hear when you enter the title screen is Sun Ara's Horse Steppin'. This 10-minute groove is like, man, I honestly don't know how to describe this song fully. Like, it's part psychedelic groove, part reggae, part like black keys. The lazy drum rhythms float along with a chunky snare, booming kick, and barely any additional percussive elements outside of a light tambourine that fills out what you might describe as a refrain in more traditional songs. The guitars remind me of a chill beach day, while the vocals remind me of what the inside of one's head must feel like if you're having an actual psychotic episode. All awash in a reverb and a low pass filter that removes nearly all upper frequency elements, this song really prepares you for the absolute trippy shit you're about to experience soon. Paris by Moon feels like my last acid experience. It feels like I just walked into a club pumped full of party drugs, ready to do my best glow stick fueled dance moves. The house-esque drum rhythms, triplet bass notes, and unsettling chanted vocals also sort of make me feel like I should be in a lobby about to enter bullet time with a long black trench coat and rocker boots on. And the song nearly gives you that ability in game as it puts you into somewhat of a trance itself. There seriously are so many dope tracks on this soundtrack to talk about that I could for sure do a whole video on this shit, so let me know if you'd be down for that. But the song that inspired my own track for this, and that inspired one of the nastiest stank faces I've had in a long time, was El Huervo's Daisuke. I mean, this shit has a disgusting swagger to it. I remember entering the first safe room and hearing the intro piano and vocals coming in like, oh shit, are they about to hit me with a hip hop beat? Then that John dropped and I stopped dead in my tracks with whatever the fuck I was doing. The way the drums and the bass bounce off of each other is masterful. Jay Dilla would be proud of this groove. The ride is sidechained to all the other elements, giving a nice juicy bouncy bop, and the guitar work is sublime, as breezy as the wind flowing between some palm trees. I also love the bit crush portion, like Mr. Huervo dragged this masterpiece through the Miami sand, causing all these unique crunchy edges. So crispy. Oh, it's so good, man. Love it. Now, my production titled Hotline is a little brighter with more energy, but I started with a choppy guitar rhythm, staccato bass off of a triplet kick pattern, as well as my own bit crushed elements. Now, if you enjoy this track, I get at least, let's say, a half a dozen comments saying Hotline. I'll throw it up for y'all to jam to. And while you're at it, check out my Bandcamp and my Spotify for all my currently released music. It's all inspired by games, and I really do think you love it. Now, there are a couple grating tracks on this soundtrack, but I mostly blame that on the fact that they caused me PTSD. due to the stages that they were tied to. It is an eclectic mix, that's to be sure, but it really serves the overall feel of the game, which is the mark of a great soundtrack. Now, with all that said, as I look you dead in your eye and tell you, is Hotline Miami worth your time and hard-earned money today? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like a brick of that hard Dade County white. This game will have you so keyed up, buzzing, and ready for another go-round that it's hard to say anything too terrible about the game. Even if it might cause your nose to bleed just a little bit from its assault. It has absolutely white-knuckle gameplay, a super cool aesthetic that has inspired many games, and a story that makes you ask more intense questions than it's willing to give you answers. I love how it draws deep from each player's internal struggle with violence, hierarchical structures, and, well, you know, generally how unwell you might be mentally. It's definitely not for everybody. It can be challenging and frustrating. The controls are super unforgiving, and unless you're down to bash your head against the wall until you master a level, maybe I would suggest that you just avoid it. Now, for everybody else who enjoys a tough yet fair game with more to offer than just decapitations and dismemberments, Hotline Miami maintains its classic status all these years later. It will certainly not be a sunny vacation, but it will be a dive into that ocean that you won't soon forget. And if you want to yell at me to play your favorite indie games that I've missed, click this video here and see where I rank games such as Hollow Knight, Hades, Cuphead, and even more. Peace.